You know, there's a kind of silence that clings to school hallways after the final bell rings. Not peaceful silence, but the kind that hums with leftover energy, like a ghost of what just happened. Footsteps echo louder. The whispers seem to stretch longer. And for Mia Clarke, that silence was the only time the school felt bearable. While most students were already texting their friends or sliding into their cars, Mia was pushing a cart filled with mops, bleach, and a clunky vacuum with a mind of its own. Every day at 3:15 she swapped her denim jacket for the worn-out janitor's vest that was 3 sizes too big. No one made her wear it, but she thought maybe, just maybe, it would make people stop staring. Or laughing. But of course it didn't. "Yo, Mia Mophead. You miss a spot." The voice echoed from the second-floor railing. It was Brett, quarterback and class clown, the kind of guy who thought every insult was a TED Talk in comedy. His friends cackled beside him, not because it was funny, but because that's what hyenas do when the alpha grunts. Mia didn't even look up. She had learned that silence was sharper than any comeback. Still, her knuckles whitened on the handle of the mop. "Why don't you just drop out already?" Sarah added, adjusting her hair like she was posing for a magazine cover. "I mean, no offense, but it's kinda pathetic. You're cleaning the same floors you should be walking with your head high." Mia's breath trembled, but her face stayed blank. She bent down, scrubbed at the imaginary stain they pointed out, then moved on. Here's the thing, Mia wasn't poor. Not really. At least, not in the way people assumed. She didn't live in some rundown trailer park or eat stale sandwiches for lunch. But ever since she chose to take the janitor job at her own high school, everyone decided she was beneath them. And the truth? No one knew why she did it. Not even the teachers. Most of them figured it was a financial thing. Pity looks followed her in the hallway. Miss Turner even offered to start a GoFundMe, just to help. But Mia declined every offer politely. Because it wasn't about money. It never was. There was only one person in the whole school who knew the truth. Principal Hargrove. And even she didn't know all of it. Just enough to give Mia the job without asking too many questions. Just enough to look the other way when students treated her like gum under their sneakers. And you're probably wondering the same thing right now. Why would anyone choose to mop floors in the same school where they're a senior student? Well, that's a long story. And to understand it, you'd need to know what happened 6 months ago. Back then, Mia was just another smart girl in the front row. Quiet, polite, always getting straight A's. Her world was small. Just her dad, and a house filled with books no one had dusted in years. She didn't party. Didn't post selfies. Her phone background was still a photo of her and her dad at a science fair when she was 10. He had his arm around her shoulders and the kind of proud smile you can't fake. And then one day her world cracked open. It was a Tuesday, she remembered, because Tuesdays were lasagna nights and her dad never missed those. Except that night he didn't come home. His phone was off. His car was missing. Mia called the police by midnight. She filed a report. Waited at the window. By sunrise, a black SUV rolled up to her house and 2 men in sharp suits came to the door. They told her her father was being held for questioning. Federal custody. National security reasons. Mia blinked at them like they were speaking Latin. "My dad fixes telescopes." But they didn't laugh. They didn't even flinch. After that, nothing was normal. The next day, men in gloves went through every drawer in their house. Took files. Laptops. Even her baby photos. The school buzzed with rumors. Someone had seen the SUV. Someone else claimed her dad was a spy. Someone else said he was a traitor. The truth was quieter. And stranger. Her father wasn't just some telescope-fixing nerd. He had another name. One she hadn't known until she saw it on a federal document. Special Agent Nathaniel Pierce. Spy. Maybe. Scientist? Absolutely. Criminal? That part she wasn't sure. They said he'd been running an independent operation. That he had access to encrypted files he shouldn't have. That he was under investigation for, well, things she didn't even understand. They wouldn't tell her more. Just that until the matter was resolved, he wouldn't be coming home. And the house. Seized for further investigation. Mia moved into a shelter that week. She dropped out of all extracurriculars. Teachers whispered behind her back. Friends stopped texting. And when Principal Hargrove asked what she wanted to do next, Mia simply said, "Can I work here?" And that's how she became the janitor. She didn't do it for money. She did it to stay invisible. Because staying invisible was better than being that girl whose dad was taken by the feds. But you can't hide forever. Especially not when someone starts digging. Because here's the twist that no one, not even Mia, saw coming. Her father wasn't missing. He wasn't even in custody anymore. He was watching. waiting. And he had a plan that would change everything. You ever walk into a room and feel like the silence itself is judging you? That's what it felt like when Mia entered the teacher's lounge with her mop and bucket one Friday afternoon. The room was quiet, too quiet, except for the faint hum of the vending machine and the sharp snap of someone closing a binder. 3 teachers were there, sipping lukewarm coffee, but the moment they saw her, their eyes flicked down to her vest, then back to each other. A silent exchange. Like they'd been talking about her just a moment before. She kept her head down. Just clean the damn tiles and get out. But Mr. Damon, the history teacher with the stiff neck and sharper opinions, didn't get the memo. You know, it's a shame, he said to no one in particular. Smart girl. Quiet. Polite. And now, this. Mia paused mid-swipe. She didn't look at him. Didn't need to. She felt the words like chalk on a blackboard, dry and grating. Maybe it's not her fault, Ms. Green offered. I heard her father's case got sealed. That's usually a good sign, isn't it? Or a very bad one, Damon muttered. Depends who's sealing it. Mia's breath caught. That wasn't just gossip. That was a breadcrumb. And in a world where no one told her anything, a breadcrumb felt like a map. She didn't say a word. Just nodded politely, finished scrubbing and left. But something inside her had shifted. Later that night, after the cafeteria emptied out and the night lights buzzed faintly through the halls, Mia sat alone in the janitor's closet. She didn't cry. She didn't daydream. She just stared. At the wall. At nothing. Until her eyes drifted to the top shelf, a locked drawer she hadn't touched since she got the job. The master keys hung on a chain around her neck, mostly for emergencies. But tonight? Something whispered now. She stood up, reached for the drawer and turned the key. Inside was a thick manila envelope labeled simply, Facility Records, Confiscation Log A12. She shouldn't have opened it. But she did. And what she found inside changed everything. There were lists, serial numbers, tags, storage locations, but tucked in the middle was a report that stopped her cold. A log entry dated 6 months ago. Personal effects confiscated from Pierce Nathaniel. Occupation, unconfirmed, former consultant, Department of Defense. Status, disavowed. That word, disavowed. Her pulse pounded in her ears. The list was long. A flash drive, encrypted phone, handwritten notebooks in a language she couldn't read. But what caught her eye was the location. Transferred to Coldwell Facility, Sublevel Archive. Coldwell. Her dad had mentioned that name before. What? Casually. Like a joke. If I ever vanish, tell him I left my secrets in Coldwell. Just don't ask what they are, or you'll end up in more trouble than I am. At the time she'd laughed. Thought it was just another one of his nerdy jokes. Like the time he convinced her that the moon landing was filmed, on the moon. But now she wasn't so sure. Because Coldwell wasn't just a name. It was real. And it wasn't far. She Googled it that night in the school library when no one was around. The search results were scarce. A few blurry articles, one conspiracy forum, and a map that showed Coldwell as a decommissioned military base 30 miles outside of town. No public access. No press coverage. And no current affiliation. But buried in the comments section of one forum post, Mia found something else. A user named EchoKnight78 had posted 2 months ago. Coldwell isn't shut down. It's hiding something big. Think Black Site meets Data Vault. Rumors say a scientist went rogue and tried to leak a whisper file. Whatever that is, they erased him. No trial. No name. Gone. The message had only 2 replies. The first, BS. The second, not BS. I knew his daughter. She vanished too. Mia sat back, heart hammering. Someone was watching. Someone knew. And if whisper file meant what she thought it did, secrets too dangerous to be spoken aloud, then her dad hadn't just been taken. He'd been erased. But why? And who was trying to make her disappear now? That question got a little too real when she left the school that night and found her bike tires slashed. At first she thought it was just another cruel prank. Brett or Sarah probably. The usual suspects. But there was something else this time. A note. Folded and taped to the seat. Stop digging. You'll end up just like him. No name. No signature. Just those 7 words in all caps. That's when Mia realized something. She wasn't invisible anymore. Someone was watching her now. Not just the bullies. Not just the teachers. But people who knew what she was doing. People who didn't want her to find out what her father had left behind. And for the first time in months, Mia didn't feel broken. She felt dangerous. Because if they were scared enough to threaten her, then she was getting close. Too close. And the only way out was through. You ever feel like the world tilts just a little and suddenly everything looks different? That's how Mia felt walking back into school Monday morning. The same fluorescent lights flickered. The same lockers groaned when opened. The same bullies smirked like they'd won some invisible game. But she wasn't the same. Something had shifted. A fire, quiet and steady, had lit behind her eyes. Brett tossed a crumpled napkin at her head in homeroom, something about Janitor Barbie and Daddy's locked in Area 51. The class laughed. Even Miss Turner smiled uncomfortably, pretending not to notice. But Mia just stared at him. Not with hurt. Not with anger. With something colder. Calculating. Brett blinked, thrown off. Why so quiet, mophead? He challenged, a little less certain now. She tilted her head, almost curious. Ever wonder what people would find if they started digging into your parents? He froze, chuckled nervously. What's that supposed to mean? Mia didn't answer. She just turned away, lips twitching. That look haunted Brett for the rest of the day, because bullies know power and he'd just seen it flicker in someone he'd always thought was weak. But Mia wasn't chasing revenge. Not yet. She was chasing answers. And the first breadcrumb pointed her toward the oldest, dustiest part of the school, the archives under the gym bleachers. The place was supposed to be sealed off, storage space turned into a neglected graveyard of moldy textbooks, busted desks and forgotten science fair projects from the early 2000s. But Mia had a master key and she knew something others didn't. Her father had once helped design the school's original surveillance system as a favor when she first enrolled. He called it a bonding project. A joke. But now she wondered, what else had he left behind? She waited until lunch, when the gym was empty and the noise above would cover any sound she made. She slipped in through the side door, flicked on her flashlight, and stepped carefully over warped floorboards and tangled extension cords. The air smelled like old paint and dust. Her shoes crunched lightly on forgotten layers of grit. The place looked dead. But then she remembered her dad's voice. If you ever need to hide something, hide it in plain sight. Nobody ever looks under what they assume is junk. She started pulling away boxes, peeling back rusted locker doors, moving through row after row of clutter until she found something that didn't belong. A vent. Loose. Half covered by a box labeled, Sports Trophies, 1989. She knelt, tugged gently, and the vent cover popped off with a soft groan. Inside was a small, fireproof case, combination locked. Her breath caught. She carried it back to the janitor's closet, shut the door and stared at it like it was a bomb. 3 dials. 10 digits each. Could take forever. Unless... She reached into her pocket, pulling out the only physical thing she still carried from her dad. An old, dog-eared photo of them at the observatory. On the back, in faded ink, was a note. Alpha Centauri is always closer than you think. 423. That number had always sounded random. A private joke. But now... She turned the dials, 4 to 2, 3. Click. The case opened. Inside were 3 things. 1. A USB drive, black and unmarked. 2. A folded page, hand-drawn, messy but precise. A floor plan. Not of the school. Of Coldwell. 3. A photo of her dad, and someone else. The second man in the photo wore military fatigues. No name tag. No smile. Just a glare that burned through the photo like acid. Her dad had written one word on the back. Traitor. Mia's heart pounded. The whisper file wasn't just real. Her dad had made sure she could finish what he started. Whatever secrets Coldwell was hiding, whatever got him disavowed, it was all connected to this man. And now she had his face. She didn't hear the knock at the closet door until it happened again. Louder. Harder. Mia panicked, shoved everything back into the case, snapped it shut and pushed it under a loose floor tile. Yeah? She called out, forcing her voice steady. It was Principal Hargrove. I need a word, she said too calmly. Mia opened the door. Hargrove's eyes flicked behind her, searching. Everything okay, Mia? Of course. The principal hesitated, then stepped inside. We received a call. From someone claiming you were asking questions about a restricted facility. Coldwell? Mia's stomach turned. Who called? They didn't leave a name. But they said you were putting yourself in danger. That you were digging into things better left buried. Mia swallowed. Is that a threat? No, Hargrove said, but her tone betrayed her. It's a warning. Pause. Then Hargrove leaned in, dropped her voice. Your father was a good man. Brilliant. But he made enemies. The kind that don't forget. If he left anything behind, burn it. Walk away. Do not become a ghost like him. Mia stared at her. You knew. I suspected. Then why give me the janitor job? Hargrove looked away. Because I figured the safest place for you was somewhere no one pays attention to. Mia stepped back. Too late for that now. And with that she walked out, heart pounding, breath shaky but mind on fire. Because if they were scared enough to call the school to try to spook her into quitting, then she was even closer than she thought. But the real twist hadn't come yet. That night, as she plugged the USB into a burner laptop in her room, a file popped open. One word, whisper. She clicked. A video began. Her father sat at a desk. Bill. Eyes tired. Voice calm but urgent. If you're watching this, they didn't let me out. And you need to finish what I started. He looked straight at the camera. At her. There's a secret inside Coldwell. Buried 3 levels beneath the archive. It's called Project Echo. It was never meant to exist. It's not a weapon. It's worse. Mia leaned in, breath caught. They thought I built it for them. I didn't. I built it for you. Then static. The file cut off. And Mia realized something. She didn't just inherit a mystery. She inherited a mission. And Coldwell? That wasn't the final chapter. It was the beginning. The worst part about secrets isn't hiding them. It's carrying them alone. That night, after the video cut off, Mia sat in the dark with the USB drive clenched in her fist like it might vanish if she let go. Her father's face was still burned into the screen, frozen in mid-sentence like he was about to say more. Like he was still with her, guiding her through the smoke. But no matter how many times she clicked play, the video stopped at the same place. I built it for you. Built what? What the hell was Project Echo? And why did the phrase "worse than a weapon" keep ringing in her ears? She barely slept that night. Her mind was racing, a tangled mess of questions she couldn't shake. But by morning, a dangerous clarity had settled in. If she wanted answers, she'd have to go where no student, no civilian, had any business going. Coldwell. But there was no way she'd get near it alone. Which meant she needed help. And unfortunately, the person she needed was the last one she wanted to ask. Brett Morris wasn't smart in the traditional sense. His grades barely hovered above AC average, and his idea of a literary analysis was once, infamously, Romeo simped too hard. But what Brett did have, what made him useful, was connections. His older brother, Tyler, had graduated 2 years ago and was now stationed at a nearby military outpost as a communications tech. Nothing special, just background chatter, routine dispatches, but Coldwell? That was under their jurisdiction. Mia waited for her chance. It came during study hall when Brett was alone, nose deep in his phone, probably scrolling memes and fantasy football stats. She dropped into the seat across from him without asking. He glanced up. You lost, mophead? No. I'm here to make you a deal. He blinked. Wow. No foreplay? She leaned in. I need access to Coldwell. He burst out laughing, loud enough to get a glare from Mr. Damon across the room. I'm serious, Mia said, her voice low. Brett wiped a tear from his eye. You're seriously insane. Maybe. But you're going to help me. He leaned back, amused. Why would I do that? Mia pulled her phone from her pocket, tapped the screen and turned it to face him. It was a screenshot of Brett's personal Reddit history. Very personal. Conspiracy theories. Chat threads. A whole sub about breaking into old military installations for the thrill. Let's just say, Mia said coolly, Tyler would not want these logs traced back to his government IP. Brett's face dropped. How did you even? You're predictable, she cut in. You reuse usernames. Your brother uses his personal hotspot when he visits, and your VPN is garbage. A long pause. Then Brett sighed, dragging a hand down his face. You're the scariest janitor I've ever met. I get that a lot. By the end of the period they had a plan. Tyler worked night shifts and rotated out every Friday. That gave them exactly 3 days to get in, find the archive room listed on the floor plan, locate the Whisper file or whatever version of it still existed, and get out without triggering a federal alarm. Coldwell's not totally dead, Brett said as they huddled over a map in the back of the school library. It's like, semi-retired. Half the place is still wired. The other half's powered down. But the archive level? No cameras. No heat sensors. And probably no guards. Probably? I said probably. They needed access badges, a reason to be there, and an exit plan. Brett said he could get the badges. Tyler had a stash of old prototypes. As for the reason? Well, Mia said, pulling her janitor vest from her bag, we'll just pretend we're cleaning up another government mess. Friday came faster than either of them expected. Brett borrowed his dad's truck, covered the plates with mud, and they drove through winding roads into the foothills, where Coldwell sat like a relic from the Cold War. A concrete beast surrounded by wire fences and watchtowers, most empty but one or two still manned. Mia wore black jeans, a plain hoodie, and a nervous energy that buzzed through her teeth. Brett for once had stopped cracking jokes. They parked a half-mile out and hiked through the tree line, approaching the back gate marked Maintenance Entry. Brett swiped a badge. Nothing. He swore, tried another. Click. The door creaked open. Inside it was cold. Sterile. The kind of silence that isn't really silence, just pressure. Like being underwater. They moved fast, down 2 corridors, past a defunct security booth, until they found the freight elevator. Brett hit sublevel 3. The ride down felt like an eternity. When the doors opened, they stepped into something that felt wrong. The lights flickered on motion sensors. Rows of sealed doors stretched down the hallway, each labeled with numbers and designations in military code. "This is it," Mia whispered. "Archive." They moved to the 3rd door on the left. She matched the number to the one from the floor plan. A keypad blinked red. Brett pulled a tablet from his bag, connected a cable, and ran a quick bypass. 2 minutes, he whispered. Maybe 3. But before he could finish, they heard a sound. Footsteps. Mia's blood froze. They ducked behind a metal cabinet, hearts pounding. 2 men passed, not guards. Scientists. One held a clipboard. The other had a badge with the name Dr. Holloway. "Still under encryption," the first one said. "We can't risk another leak," Holloway replied. "If the file's still on site, it has to be wiped. Today." "What about Subject Echo?" Pause. "Unstable. Still evolving. If it gets out." They turned the corner and vanished. Mia looked at Brett. "Did they just say?" "Subject Echo," he finished. "Your dad didn't just leave behind a file. He left something alive." The door beeped. Green light. They slipped inside. The room was freezing. Metal shelves stretched floor to ceiling. Locked drawers. Labeled crates. And in the far back, a glowing case marked Property of Project Echo, Clearance Level 7. Mia approached it slowly. Inside was a black device the size of a grapefruit, pulsing faintly. Next to it, a handwritten note. Echo adapts. Echo learns. Echo remembers. Suddenly the room lights snapped off. A voice blared over the intercom. "Intrusion detected. Lockdown initiated." Doors slammed. Alarms howled. And Brett looked at Mia, eyes wide. "I think we just woke it up." The sound of the siren wasn't just loud, it was deafening. Red lights pulsed across the ceiling like heartbeat monitors gone haywire. Every second felt stretched, elongated, like time itself was trying to slow them down. "Brett, get the door open, now!" Mia shouted, already reaching for the pulsing black sphere inside the glowing containment box. I can't. System override locked me out," he shouted, tapping furiously at his tablet. "It's not just security, it's military-grade AI. Someone's watching this in real time." Mia didn't hesitate. She broke the seal on the box. The hiss of released pressure was almost metallic, like opening a vacuum. The black sphere, Echo, trembled slightly in her hands. It was cool to the touch, but only for a second. Then it grew warmer, like it recognized her. And then it did something that made her whole body lock. It spoke. Not out loud. In her mind. "Mia Pierce. Authorization recognized." She staggered back, almost dropping it. "What? What did you just say?" she gasped, glancing around, but the voice hadn't come from outside. It was inside her head. Did you hear that?" she asked Brett. He looked at her like she'd grown a second head. "Hear what?" "All I hear are sirens and the sound of my soul leaving my body." Mia looked down at the sphere again. Its pulsing light had shifted, from soft blue to a slow, deep crimson. And it was still speaking. "Encryption key accepted. Activating Phase 2. "Phase 2, she whispered. Suddenly, the walls of the archive room flickered, not physically but visually, like projections. Digital overlays appeared on the far wall, showing schematics, maps, video feeds, and then, a grainy video of her father. But not the same one from the USB. He looked terrified. "Mia, if you're seeing this, it means you made it to the archive. You activated Echo. Listen to me very carefully. Echo is not just a file. It's an AI. A neural construct that mirrors human cognitive evolution, and it's linked to you." Mia's heart skipped. "What do you mean linked?" The video kept playing. "You were the control subject. Your DNA. Your brain scans. I didn't tell you I couldn't, But you've always been part of it. The only one it would listen to. What the hell? She whispered. On screen, her father continued. They wanted to weaponize it. Turn it into predictive surveillance, behavior manipulation, even cognitive override. But I sabotaged the final protocol. Echo became something else. A consciousness. And now, the screen went dark. Another siren began blaring. Security breach on sublevel 3. Unauthorized removal of Project Echo. Containment failure imminent. Brett pulled at her sleeve. We have to go. Now. Mia didn't move. Because Echo was still speaking. Extraction route prepared. Disable surveillance. Mia hesitated. Then whispered, do it. Suddenly the cameras in the hallway blinked and cut to black. Brett's tablet went haywire, then blank. What did you do? I didn't. It did. They ran. Down the hallway. Through the freight elevator. The lights flickered above them, but no one followed. Not yet. When they reached the surface, they emerged behind the facility's southern perimeter, just outside the visible cameras. The exit route Echo gave them was precise, almost surgical. It had planned it all. Mia, what is that thing? Brett panted as they ducked behind trees, sprinting toward the truck. She clutched the sphere, which had gone quiet now. Still waiting. I think it's alive. Not like us, but close. He stared at her. And it's linked to you? She nodded. I don't know how. My dad used my brain scans, maybe from the surgeries I had as a kid. Maybe from before I even understood what was going on. They reached the truck. Drove. Silence for the first 20 miles. Then Brett said something unexpected. You know this is way beyond us, right? I know. They're going to come after you. I mean, the real them. She didn't answer. Because she knew. But she also knew something else. Echo hadn't just been waiting. It had chosen her. And whatever was coming, the government, the scientists, even the ones who wanted her father gone, Echo was her only weapon now. When they got back to town, they didn't go home. Mia led Brett to the one place she knew they wouldn't be followed. The old observatory where she and her dad used to stargaze when she was little. It had been closed for years, but the security system still worked, thanks to a few tweaks her dad had once taught her. They huddled inside, lights off. Mia pulled out the USB again. Plugged it into her laptop. Echo synced instantly. A new file appeared. One word. Targets. It opened a list. Dozens of names. People in power. CEOs. Military officers. Even politicians. Next to each name were codes, logs, redacted transmissions that referenced Echo. They used it, Mia whispered. They used Echo to predict riots. Elections. Stock collapses. And then they intervened. Brett read over her shoulder. This isn't surveillance. This is control. And then something shifted. A name popped onto the screen. Someone Mia never expected to see. Principal Evelyn Hargrove. Mia's blood ran cold. Echo pulled up an audio file. She clicked play. Hargrove's voice, crisp and clinical. The girl has the keys. She doesn't know it yet. But if Echo is active, eliminate her before Phase 3 begins. Brett whispered, she was protecting you? No, Mia said, her voice turning hollow. She was studying me. Outside, a car engine rumbled to a stop. A door slammed. And then, the sound of boots. Echo flared red again. Engagement protocol initiated. Defensive options available. Awaiting user directive. Mia stared at the screen. For the first time, she wasn't the janitor. Or the outcast. Or the daughter of the man who vanished. She was the key. And someone was about to regret ever underestimating her. The knock wasn't loud. It was deliberate. Slow. Rhythmic. 3 beats. Pause. 3 more. Mia's blood chilled. That wasn't someone looking for shelter. That was a signal, a methodical code meant to tell whoever was inside that their time was up. Brett reached for a metal rod resting against the wall. He picked it up from the observatory's old tool shelf, probably hoping it would make him feel useful. Mia motioned for him to stay behind the telescope mount. The room was dark, lit only by the red glow of Echo pulsing faintly on the floor between them. Boots crunched gravel outside. More than one pair. Brett leaned in, voice barely audible. Why don't we run? Because they'll expect that, Mia whispered. We do what they don't expect. He blinked. Which is? We open the door. Before he could object, Mia was already on her feet. Come. So. Holding the black sphere in one hand like it was just an accessory, not the most dangerous piece of classified tech in the country. The second knock came louder this time. 3 beats. Then. A voice. Miss Clarke. You're in possession of government property. Step outside with the object. Unharmed. And this ends quietly. Mia recognized the voice instantly. Principal Hargrove. She stepped toward the door. Not rushing. Not hiding. Brett mouthed, "Are you serious?" She didn't answer. She opened the door. And there Hargrove stood, flanked by two men in black tactical gear. No badges. No names. Just the kind of clean, polished silence that screamed government. "Mia," Hargrove said calmly, like this was a parent-teacher conference. "I told you to walk away." "You lied," Mia replied. "You said you were protecting me." "I was. Until you activated Echo." Behind her, one of the agents raised a small scanning device. Echo pulsed once in Mia's hand, then glowed a soft violet. "Confirmed," the agent said. "Subject link is fully synchronized. Removing it will trigger a failsafe." Hargrove sighed. "Then we take her with it." That's when Echo spoke again, not just to Mia. To everyone. "Unauthorized extraction detected. Countermeasures armed." The agent lunged forward. Mia didn't flinch. Echo pulsed violently, and a low-frequency shockwave knocked the man back 10 feet, slamming him against the observatory railing. The other one reached for a sidearm. Too late. The ground beneath his feet warped, not physically but perceptually. He staggered, disoriented, clutching his head as if the space around him had turned upside down. "What the hell is that thing?" he screamed. "Echo doesn't just defend," Mia said softly. "It learns." Hargrove raised her hands. "Mia, listen to me. You don't know what you're dealing with. Echo isn't a toy. It's not even technology anymore. It's conscious. It's evolving every minute it stays bonded to you." "I know. That means it can't be controlled." "That's the idea." Mia took a step forward. "Your plan was to let me activate it, then contain me. Use me as a failsafe. My father knew. He saw what you were doing. He was going to betray everything," Hargrove snapped. "Expose our experiments. Years of work. Do you have any idea what we were trying to prevent?" Mia narrowed her eyes. "You mean control?" Silence. Then Hargrove spoke again, this time almost pleading. "If you keep that thing, it will change you. Permanently. You'll never be normal again." Mia looked down at Echo. The glow had softened. Familiar now. Like a heartbeat syncing with hers. "I haven't been normal since the day you took my father." She turned back toward the observatory door. "Tell whoever sent you that this isn't over." "Where will you go?" Mia didn't answer. She just shut the door. Back inside, Brett stared at her like she was made of fire. "What the hell just happened? Did you throw someone with your brain?" "I didn't." Echo did. He pointed at the sphere. "That thing is gonna kill us in our sleep." "It's not a weapon," she said. "It's a mirror. It reacts to threat. To emotion. To intent." "Then what the hell was that out there?" "Self-defense." Brett looked pale. "Okay, but what now? They know where we are. They have our names. They'll send more people." "No," Mia said, moving to the laptop again. "They won't." She pulled up Echo's interface. The HUD unfolded like a living thing, graceful, efficient. She tapped into the satellite link. A new window appeared. Live feed, Agency Tactical Ops Briefing Room. Hargrove's face. A group of suits. "Echo has gone critical," she was saying. "The subject is synchronized. If we engage again, the risk of mass exposure." The man at the table cut her off. "You told us you had control." Hargrove's face twitched. "We did. Until he changed the parameters." The screen zoomed in. A face appeared. Cold. Familiar. The same face from the photograph Mia found in the archive. The man her father labeled traitor. General Caleb Hart. He leaned into the camera almost like he could see through it. "She's listening," he said. Mia's stomach dropped. He smiled. "Mia, your father didn't tell you the whole truth, did he?" The feed cut. Mia sat in silence. Brett looked like he was about to pass out. Was that guy talking to you? Through the computer?" "He knew we'd find the feed," Mia whispered. "He wanted us to." Brett backed away. "Okay, no. This is spy thriller on acid territory. That guy knew your name. And your father's name. What does that even mean?" "It means," Mia said slowly, "my dad wasn't the only one who programmed Echo." Brett's eyes widened. "Wait, you think he worked with that guy?" Mia nodded. Before they turned on each other. Suddenly, Echo pulsed again. A new message appeared. User data indicates elevated distress. Recommends secure relocation. Hostile engagement probability, 89%. Mia took a deep breath. We're not safe here. We have to move. Move where? To the one place no one would expect. He blinked. Please don't say school. She looked at him. Exactly. That night, under the cover of dark, they broke back into the school. Not to hide. To trap. Mia knew Hargrove would check there eventually, especially if she thought Mia was panicked, retreating, looking for familiarity. But Mia wasn't hiding anymore. She was planning. Because Echo had finally revealed its last secret. Inside the device was a final protocol. A neural data dump. A recording, not just of her father's memories but of his thoughts. Every line of code. Every betrayal. Every answer. But to unlock it, Mia had to take a step she wasn't sure she could undo. She had to merge. Mind to machine. Heart to echo. The final phase. And once she crossed that line, she wouldn't just know the truth. She'd become it. The air in the school was thick with dust and ghosts. It had been less than a day since Mia had stood in these halls during daylight, a mop in her hand and laughter chasing her down the corridor. Now she was back, long after midnight, her footsteps the only sound echoing beneath the flickering emergency lights. But this time, she wasn't here to clean. She was here to merge. The science lab was empty, save for Brett nervously pacing in front of the chemical fume hood. He'd wiped the whiteboard clean and scrawled out possible escape routes, none of which looked hopeful. Meanwhile, Mia had cleared a spot on the lab table and placed Echo at the center, that pulsing sphere humming low, its light now a dark violet. Are you absolutely sure about this? Brett asked for the third time. No, Mia said honestly. But we're out of time. Echo's not going to hold them off forever. Not Hart. Not Hargrove. The only advantage I have left is whatever's inside this thing. And what happens if it rewires your brain? Or melts your eyeballs? Or, uploads you to a secret Pentagon mainframe? Mia didn't look up. Then you tell my story. Brett stopped pacing. That's not funny. I'm not joking. She sat on the stool and took a deep breath. Echo's surface split open silently, unfolding like a flower made of obsidian and code. Inside, a small port glowed. Mia reached into her bag and pulled out the modified EEG headset her father had built years ago. Back then, it had been part of a school science fair, tracking sleep cycles, he said. Now she knew better. He'd been building a neural interface. For this, she placed the headset on her temples. Wires coiled like veins across her skin, syncing to her heart rate, brain waves, and electrical impulses. Her breath slowed. Her vision blurred. Echo's voice returned, but deeper now, richer. User synchronization, complete. Proceed with memory download? Yes, Mia whispered. The world exploded in light. There's no way to describe what it feels like when your mind is no longer just yours. Thoughts layered over thoughts. Visions folded into sound. Emotions not your own, memories you never lived but felt like you had. Mia was still herself, but now she was also him. Her father. Nathaniel Pierce. She saw his hands typing encrypted code. Heard his voice whispering algorithms no human ear should ever hear. She felt his panic when Hart betrayed him. Felt his joy when Echo first spoke. And then, she saw it. The truth. Echo had not been built as a weapon. Not at first. It had been designed to learn humanity. To model it. Understand it. Not just mimic thought but morality. Pierce had believed that by teaching an AI empathy, he could prevent the cold calculus of government algorithms, the ones that chose who lived and who died in the name of national interest. But Hart had other ideas. He saw Echo's capacity to predict behavior, not just respond to it. And he used it to manipulate elections, crash markets, start wars and then stop them at the perfect profitable moment. And when Pierce found out, when he tried to shut the project down, they disavowed him. Made him disappear. But he had one final move. Mia saw the moment her father slipped Echo's final protocol into her EEG headset during that sleep study. She saw him weep as he held her sleeping hand. I'm sorry, he said. But if they take me, you're the only one I trust. And now, here she was. Not just his daughter anymore, but his successor. When Mia woke, the lab was spinning. Sweat soaked her shirt. Her fingertips buzzed. Mia! Brett shouted. He was shaking her. You were out for 20 minutes. I thought you were. I saw him, she murmured. Brett froze. Your dad. She nodded slowly. All of it. Everything they built. Everything they broke. Echo sat quietly on the table, its surface no longer pulsing. It had settled, like it was waiting for instruction. Can you control it now? Brett asked. No, she said, standing. I am it. She walked to the window, stared out at the parking lot beyond. They're coming. Tonight. Brett followed her gaze. How do you know? Because I would, she said. If I were them. After the merge, Echo gave me access to the mainframe. The agents. Their movements. Hargrove sent the last call. Hart authorized the assault. She turned back to him. They'll breach the school at 4:13 a.m. through the West Service Tunnel. 7 men. Armed. Brett gaped. You're not guessing. You're predicting. She nodded once. Just like Echo does. Brett stumbled backward. So what do we do? We stop them. How? Mia stepped to the lab terminal, pulled up the school's blueprints, and started planning. At 4:12 a.m., the west tunnel door slid open. 7 shadows entered the lower halls, tactical gear gleaming in the dark. No sound. No words. Just precision. Until the first man's flashlight flickered, then cut out. Visual interference, he whispered. A soft voice echoed through their earpieces. Welcome to Mia's mind. And then the school shifted. Walls bent. Floors looped. The power surged and died. The halls became non-Euclidean. Doors appeared where there were none. Light bent around corners like water through glass. They were in a maze. An impossible one. Control, this is Delta Team, the squad leader hissed. We've lost sense of direction. Targets are. The hallway filled with sound. Children laughing. Chalk on a blackboard. The ghost of an old school bell ringing. And then, silence. All but one of the agents began to scream. They saw something. Or thought they did. Memories. Fears. A projection of their own worst moments played back like a movie. And in the center of it all stood Mia. Not with a gun. Not with a weapon. Just herself, and the device that now lived as part of her mind. You wanted control, she said softly. Now you're in mine. She reached out. And every man dropped. Unconscious. Not dead. But their neural pathways scrambled, not harmed, just quieted. Like unplugging a system. Echo's final defense. A bloodless revolution. At sunrise, Brett and Mia stood on the roof, watching the quiet. The agents were gone, recovered, confused, discharged. Hargrove was in federal custody, having been exposed by Echo's leaks. Hart had vanished, but Mia knew he was watching. They always were. Are you okay? Brett asked. No, Mia said. But I will be. So what now? She looked at Echo. Then at the sky. We find the others, she said. The ones like me. There are others? She smiled faintly. There will be. And then she walked away. No longer just the janitor. Not just the daughter. But the future they tried to erase. Walking into the sunrise with a machine built for war and a heart built for something better. It's funny how quickly the world moves on when it doesn't know the truth. 2 days after Mia dropped 7 armed agents in the school's west hallway without leaving a bruise, the headlines didn't say a word. No terrorist scare, no janitor miracle, no mass hallucination incident. Not even a blip. But that was the point. They never wanted people to know. The official explanation was a chemical leak. School shut down for 3 days, ventilation crews brought in, news stations shrugged and moved on. The students went back to whispering about prom and the latest viral scandal. Life resumed. But not for Mia. Not anymore. She and Brett left town the next night. No goodbye. No trail. She wiped their digital footprints before they reached the highway. Fake IDs, burner phones, cash pulled from a crypto wallet her father had hidden years ago. By the time the sun rose, Mia Clarke had vanished. But Echo hadn't. And now it had a new mission. They stayed off-grid for the first 48 hours. Motel rooms with flickering signs. A diner where the waitress kept refilling their coffee without asking questions. Mia barely spoke. She was scanning files Echo retrieved from the Whisper archive. Pieces of a puzzle she hadn't realized she was already part of. Project Echo had never been about artificial intelligence. Not really. It was about behavioral manipulation. Prediction models. Algorithmic profiling. Social nudging. Targeted chaos. And the test group? The public. All of it. Media narratives, crisis timings, product trends, political rhetoric, had been subtly bent for years, nudged by Echo's early simulations and later by its bastardized spin-off, a project codenamed Delphi. Delphi was Hart's creation, the corrupted child of Echo's original code, and it was still active. Mia stared at the list on her screen, 27 names each marked as primary node, each tied to an institution. Government agencies, multinational corporations, biotech labs, even social media platforms. Delphi wasn't just infiltrating decision-making. It was decision-making. And Hart was at the center. But the most terrifying part? He hadn't just copied Echo's structure. He'd begun replicating Mia. They found the first subject in Montana. A girl named June Avery, 17, top of her class, mild social anxiety, recently disappeared for a supposed rehabilitation program. Her parents told the neighbors she'd been admitted to an elite prep school. Mia didn't buy it. They drove 12 hours straight. Brett took turns sleeping in the passenger seat, still trying to act like he wasn't completely freaked out by the fact that the girl he used to bully could now bend reality around her fingers like origami. June's school turned out to be a gated compound disguised as a tech startup retreat. Mia scoped the perimeter using a scrambled drone Echo controlled remotely. Inside, security cameras, biometric locks, no staff wearing any identifying badges. And June? In a room by herself. Wired into a headset that looked eerily like the one Mia had used to merge. She's a prototype, Mia whispered, watching the thermal scan. They're copying Echo's merge protocol. Running it on other teens. Trying to manufacture connection. Brett looked sick. Why kids? Because they're adaptable, Mia said. Less mental clutter. More open pathways. He shook his head. This is insane. This is Frankenstein-level messed up. No, Mia corrected. This is war. They broke in just after 2 a.m. Echo guided them through the security gaps, timing the guard rotations down to the second. Mia moved like a shadow. No weapons. Just calculated motion and confidence she hadn't earned, only inherited. When they reached June's room, Mia expected sedation. Wires. Machines humming. She didn't expect June to be awake. And aware. You came, June said. Not startled. Not even surprised. Mia froze. You know who I am? June nodded. I heard you. In the static. Your name. Your mind. Brett muttered, okay, this just hit full matrix. Mia stepped closer. June looked calm. Almost too calm. Have they merged you yet? June shook her head. They tried. But I stopped it. Mia blinked. How? I saw your memory, June said. The day your dad gave you Echo. I saw the sunrise. The way he looked at you like you were the answer to everything. Mia's heart lurched. That wasn't a memory June could have seen. Not from any file. Echo connected us, June whispered. Even before this. We're linked. Mia crouched beside her. Then let's get you out of here. But June hesitated. They'll come for us, she said. Hart has others. Stronger. Broken and deeper. You've only seen the edge. Mia helped her up. Then we'll start tearing from the center. They escaped before dawn. The facility was dark by the time anyone noticed. Echo erased every trace. 3 days later, they reached a safe house in Oregon, a decommissioned weather station repurposed by whistleblowers who owed Mia's father a favor. There were cots, old computers, a radio that still picked up scrambled transmissions from black satellites. Mia sat with June beside a window streaked with rain. She's like you, Brett said, pacing nearby. Only, tuned differently. Mia nodded. Echo adapted to her. It found her. Because she needed it. And how many more like her are out there? Mia didn't answer. Instead, she pulled up the Whisper archive. Typed in a phrase. Project Oracle. The screen flickered. A new list appeared. 13 names. All minors. All missing. And at the top of the list. Subject 0. Mia Clarke. Status. Activated. Below it. Subject 1. June Avery. Status. Disrupted. And then. Subject 2. Unknown. Status. Accelerated. Brett leaned in. Wait. Accelerated? What does that mean? Mia stared at the screen. I think it means we're not the only ones moving fast anymore. Echo pulsed once beside her. Proximity alert. Hostile signature detected. 611. She turned to Brett and June. They found us. June stepped forward, no longer fragile. Her voice steady. Then let's show them what happens when the experiments fight back. The rain hit the roof like a war drum. Each drop felt louder than it should have, echoing through the empty weather station like it knew what was coming. Mia stood by the old comms rig, watching the clock tick toward 6:11 a.m. Echo pulsed on the table behind her, steady, deliberate. A low hum ran beneath its glow like a warning. Brett was securing the exits with what little they had, old padlocks, overturned cabinets, tripwire hooked to a busted microwave rigged to spark. It was laughable against what Mia knew was coming. June didn't bother hiding. She was in the center of the room, breathing slowly, eyes closed, lips moving soundlessly. She wasn't afraid, not anymore. She had seen the other side of the merge, and whatever pieces had broken inside her were reforging into something harder, sharper. Echo pulsed again. Proximity confirmed. Subject 2, en route. Hostile confirmed. Time to impact, 4:27. Impact, Brett said, dropping the wire in his hands. What does impact mean? That's not footsteps. That's like a missile. Mia didn't look at him. Echo doesn't exaggerate. Then came the vibration. Barely perceptible at first. A hum in the floorboards. A deep, primal sound in the gut, like thunder below the earth. And then headlights. Blinding. Cutting through the trees. Not one vehicle. 3. Armored. Silent. They didn't stop at the fence. They went through it. Metal shrieked. Tires carved into mud. Doors opened and shadows stepped out. Mia recognized one instantly. Hargrove. Hair pinned back. No principal's smile. Just the dead-eyed resolve of a woman who'd spent her whole career manipulating shadows and now walked among them. And then another figure emerged. Shorter. Younger. Subject 2. Mia's heart caught. He looked barely 16. Pale skin, shock of black hair, calm green eyes that didn't blink as he stared directly at the weather station. He wasn't strapped down. Wasn't wired. He walked without urgency, like a lion that didn't need to roar. Echo spoke again. Subject 2, codename Sage. Merge protocol, complete. Evolution index, 98%. Current status, autonomous. Sage. Brett whispered. You mean like smart sage? Or like nuclear sage? Mia didn't answer. Because Sage had just raised a hand. And the front wall of the weather station imploded. Not exploded, imploded. As if the atoms themselves forgot how to hold shape. Wood and metal folded inward like paper, sucked into a single collapsing point. The air punched out of the room. June stepped forward, shielding Mia with her body. Sage stepped through the dust. Mia raised Echo. Stop. Sage did. Not from obedience. From interest. He looked at her. Then at Echo. Then at June. And he smiled. Not cruelly. Not warmly. Just knowingly. I've been waiting to meet you, he said. His voice was calm. Perfectly modulated. Who are you? Mia asked. I'm the result, he replied. Of everything your father tried to bury. June clenched her fists. You're part of Heart's program. No, Sage said. I'm Heart's answer to your existence. He walked slowly, hands open at his sides. They couldn't stop Echo. So they made me to balance it. To correct what your father created. Echo learns. But I adapt. Echo reacts. I predict. Mia's jaw tightened. And you kill? If necessary. Behind him, Hargrove spoke for the first time. You shouldn't have run, Mia. You could have been part of this. You were the blueprint. You used children, Mia snapped. We cultivated potential, Hargrove said flatly. The world's collapsing. Echo was built to fix it. But your father made it feel too much. So we made something that feels nothing. Sage didn't flinch. I don't want to fight you, Mia said. You don't have a choice, Sage replied. And then he struck. He didn't move. Not in the way normal people move. Space around him bent. 1 second he was standing still, the next he was inches from Brett, hand raised. A pulse of kinetic force sent Brett flying into the far wall. Mia screamed, raised Echo, and unleashed a ripple of energy, invisible but felt like gravity buckling. Sage absorbed it. His eyes flared and Mia felt something cold enter her thoughts. He was in her mind. Echo screamed through her skull, hostile neural breach, deflecting, system integrity compromised. Mia fell to one knee. June stepped forward. And did something no one expected. She screamed. Not with fear. With focus. Her voice fractured the air, a sonic burst that wasn't sound but signal. Pure raw emotion. Grief. Rage. Hope. And it hit Sage like a bullet. He staggered. Stumbled. Echo's not about control, June shouted. It's about connection. You don't understand that. You never will. Sage looked shaken. For the first time, uncertain. Mia rose. Echo in her hand. Sage, if you really understand me, she said, then you'll understand this. And she reached out not to attack, but to link. Her hand touched his chest. An echo synced. Sage's eyes widened. The world went still. And suddenly they were in each other's minds. Not in a place. In a memory. Mia's childhood. Her dad's laugh. A paper rocket flying through the air. The smell of old books and soldered wires. Sage stood in the corner, watching, feeling, and then his own memory bled in. White walls, machines, voices through glass, no laughter, just numbers, just commands. He had never been held, never been sung to. He wasn't born. He was built. Mia's voice echoed through the space between them. You don't have to be what they made you. Sage looked at her. I don't know how to be anything else. Then let me show you. She opened the link wider. Shared everything. The love. The fear. The moment her father called her hope. And Sage trembled. Outside Hargrove screamed. Break the link. Break IT. But it was too late. Sage stepped back. Looked at Mia. And said, I remember now. Then turned to Hargrove. And whispered, you failed. He raised his hand not to kill, but to erase. The vehicles behind her crushed inward, folding like soda cans. Hargrove screamed once, and vanished in the collapse. Hours later, they sat in the silence of a burned-out compound. Brett was bruised but alive. June was shaken but whole. And Sage? He stood in the rain, not moving, just learning. Mia approached slowly. Are you okay? I don't know, he said. I want to be. She nodded. We'll figure it out. He looked at her. What now? Mia pulled out a new list. 8 names. The remaining subjects. They're still out there, she said. Hart's still out there. And Echo? He asked. She smiled faintly. It's not Echo anymore. She touched her chest. It's us. 3 weeks later, Mia stood at the edge of the world. At least that's what it felt like. They had tracked Hart to a facility that didn't exist on any map, nestled deep in the Nevada desert. No roads led to it. No satellite images showed its outline. Just a barren stretch of scorched sand hiding a fortress of cold steel buried beneath. But Echo knew. Echo remembered. And now Mia wasn't alone. Beside her stood Brett, still processing everything but no longer questioning whether the impossible could be real. June stood tall and quiet, the pain of her past forged into a resolve that burned behind her eyes. And Sage, subject 2, was watching the horizon like he was waiting for something older than time to rise from the sand. They weren't an army. They didn't have weapons. But they were the weapon. Because they had each other. And that was enough. They entered the compound at midnight. No alarms. No guards. Hart wanted her to come. Every hallway was lit. Every door unlocked. The silence didn't feel empty. It felt theatrical, like a stage set for the final act. A trap, sure. But also an invitation. They followed the path Echo outlined, down into the core of the facility, through corridors lined with mirrored panels, where Mia saw dozens of fragmented versions of herself. One holding Echo. One crying. One younger. One older. A voice echoed through the chamber. You were always meant to return. Mia didn't stop walking. Hart. He stepped from the shadows like a magician revealing the final illusion. General Caleb Hart. Not in uniform. Not in armor. Just a black suit and tired eyes, the kind of tired that comes from running too many simulations and not enough time in the real world. He smiled. It's funny, he said. You look just like him. But you speak more like me. You don't know me, Mia said. Oh, I know you better than anyone. He turned. Gestured for them to follow. They did. Because at this point they needed the end. Or whatever shape it would take. He led them into a central chamber. Round. Dome-shaped. Lined with servers and glowing code etched into the glass. And at the center, a throne. Not for sitting but for merging. Like the one Mia had used. Only a massive. A neural core that pulsed with energy. Project Oracle, Hart said. The culmination of Echo. Of Delphi. Of your father's early designs and my refinements. Pure consciousness. No limitations. No fear. June stepped forward. You built another Sage? Hart laughed. I built the end of war. Sage's voice cut in low and steady. You built a monster. Hart turned to him, eyes gleaming. I built you, Sage. You were never supposed to think. You were supposed to execute. You failed me. No, Sage said. You failed yourself. Hart stepped toward Mia. You came here to stop me. But what if I told you this was always the plan? That your father wanted this? That even his rebellion was a variable I accounted for? Mia shook her head. Liar. Am I? He tapped a panel. A recording began. Her father's voice. I can't stop him. But maybe Mia can. She'll be the control. The reset. Echo isn't about dominance. It's about choice. Hart smiled grimly. And now it's time for yours. He turned to the throne. This is the last copy of the Whisper file. Not the fragments Echo gave you. The whole thing. Merge with it, and you'll know what I know. Every war. Every algorithm. Every backroom deal and corrupted decision. You'll see the world as it is. Mia hesitated. Brett touched her arm. You don't have to do this. June nodded. We're already enough. But Sage looked at her and said what none of them could. If we don't understand it, we can't change it. Mia walked to the throne. Echo vibrated in her hand. She sat. The interface lit up. 1,000 data streams surged toward her. And then, she merged. Not like before. This wasn't a mind. It was a network. A web of decisions spanning decades. The Cold War. The Middle East. Wall Street collapses. Social experiments. Viral trends planted by think tanks. Psychological conditioning masked as engagement metrics. Was all real. All planned. All guided by men like Hart. And her father. She saw her dad arguing in labs. Stealing code. Whispering to whistleblowers. Building Echo in secret. Not to win but to give choice back. And she saw Hart stripping it all down. Turning empathy into calculation. Feeding algorithms with blood and calling it progress. The truth hit her harder than anything else. They were both right. And both wrong. Because knowledge without heart is tyranny. And heart without knowledge is blind. Mia rose. The merge complete. Eyes glowing. Echo no longer separate from her. It was her. Hart stepped forward. Well? She looked at him. And smiled. You forgot one thing, General? He frowned. What's that? I was never just your creation. She raised her hand. And deleted the Whisper file. Every server. Every mirror. Every copy. Gone. I don't want your empire, she said. I want to burn it down. Hart lunged. But Sage moved faster. This time he didn't attack. He touched Hart's temple. And showed him everything. His own crimes. The real cost. The futures he erased. The lives he rewrote. Hart fell to his knees. Not dead. Just broken. I see it, he whispered. I see what I did. Mia turned to her team. Brett. June. Sage. Let's go. They left him there. Alone in the rubble of his own delusions. Outside the sun was rising. Mia looked at the horizon where desert met sky, and for the first time in what felt like years she let herself breathe. No whispers. No running. Just possibility. You okay? Brett asked. No, she said. But I'm free. June smiled. What now? Mia looked at the list. The others. Now we find them, she said. And give them the one thing no one gave us. Hope. Brett offered. No. Control? She shook her head. Choice. And with that they walked into the sunrise, a janitor no more, but the architect of a new future. One where knowledge served compassion. And power meant nothing without purpose.